Welcome, I'm Paul, this is Dave. You're watching my channel's weekly compendium, ending December 9th, 2024. Enjoy. Case file number 1975, written by Undefined Spoon. The Midnight Dog and a Trucker's Blog. Both occurred when I used to be a truck driver in 2012 to 2013. I was 23 at the time. First story. Once I was at a truck stop, somewhere in the middle of nowhere, Ohio. I parked my truck, and as I'm waiting by the trucks fueling up, I see a guy with a purple truck who doesn't quite look right, sort of stumbling. I ask him if he's okay. He sort of slowly stares at me, then just falls down. At that exact moment, his truck just shuts off. I run over to him, and he's out cold. Other drivers come over, and one of them knows a lot more about this sort of stuff. He says his heart stopped, so he starts doing compressions. Someone calls 911. The ambulance gets there and tries to bring him back, but can't. They call and get authorization or whatever to call time of death. I asked the workers if they wanted me to move his truck to a parking lot, and they said sure. I see he has a little dog in the passenger seat. I hand him off to a worker. As I do so, this really creepy feeling comes over me. I've seen death several times, far more graphic and gory than some old guy falling over from a heart attack, but I feel like someone was in the cab with me. Freaked me the hell out. I try to crank the truck, but it will not start. There's about a half a tank at least. When the guy first collapsed, the first thing someone did was cut the fuel pump off and put it back into the fuel pump, because he sort of fell almost under the plumbing fuel filler, automatically shutting off the passenger side pump. Trucks fill up from both sides, meaning the fuel was pumping maybe a minute or two, so it had gotten, I'd guess, about 10 to 20 gallons. So the truck did not run out of fuel. It was as if the truck died when he died. I could not get the damn thing to fire. Didn't even try to just fire, just cranked and cranked. I could see if the truck had cooled down, but it was still very warm, and a warm truck is easy to start. This was also in the summertime. I'm sure there's a logical reason here. Just sort of freaked me out that the truck died at the exact moment its owner died. Told them it wouldn't crank, call a tow truck, and I got the hell out of there. Second story. I normally don't drive at night, and never late at night. It was winter time, but no snow or anything, probably around 8 or 9 p.m. So it had been dark since around 6 or 7. And I'm driving along on a fairly straight stretch of road somewhere in Oklahoma. Visibility was pretty good, and I could see pretty far ahead of me. All of a sudden, I see what looks like a black dog jump from somewhere off the right, across the left lane, then dart back in front of me in the right lane. It looked like a big dog, maybe a Great Dane. Actually reminded me of the Batman dog from Batman the Animated Series, but moved like a panther or something abnormally quick. When it darted back in front, I braced myself. You are taught never to swerve for an animal or even another car, to just simply apply the brakes and ram whatever the obstacle is, as ramming a car is better than flipping over and crushing a car. 80,000-pound load. I didn't have time to brake, but I hit whatever it was hard. The front hood appears to flip up, blocking the windshield for a moment, and flip back down. Keep in mind, truck hoods are hinged at the front and flip forward like a 94 Corvette. I heard the distinct sound of the glass turntable in my microwave slam and rattle around from the impact. At this moment, I figured it must have been a bear of some kind. And a dog isn't going to crush my front end like it seemed to do. The impact has slowed me down a bit, but my first thought is if it was a bear, there may be more. So I keep speed. The hood seems stable. The steering feels fine. So I don't think there's steering or suspension damage. The lights are still somehow working, and all my gauges are showing fine, so I throw on the hazards, keep moving around 30 miles an hour, and keep my eyes glued to the temperature and air pressure gauges. I figure if I'm leaking coolant, I have like 20 gallons in the system before I run out. I get on the CB and yell out that I think I just smashed into a literal black bear on the highway. Saying a bear on the CB usually means a cop, so you should specify a literal black bear, and to watch out for either more or its dead body on the highway. One guy says he had just seen a black dog and he almost ran off the road. I told him that's what I just hit, but it blew apart my front end. I think it was either a really fast bear or maybe a panther or mountain lion. The next truck stop is about 5 miles away. I make it there, pull into the pumps, and assess the damage. Nothing. There is not a scratch anywhere on this truck. I smashed into whatever the hell the thing was. I heard the massive impact, the crunching of the hood on the front end. I saw the front end of my hood very distinctly fly up and back down. The hood was completely intact. The intercooler and radiator had no damage. I had hit nothing. I went over my hours by 2 hours to get the hell out of that state, and as far as I could, into Texas. Later, I found on the internet about an old trucker legend about the black dog jumping out in front of the drivers, causing them to swerve off the road to avoid it. Maybe it knew I wasn't going to swerve and tried to take me out another way. Case file number 1976, written by G isn't 3. In waves they come, acting so dumb. Before I get into the post, I'd like to say that I'm not just missing or imagining things. I'm constantly hyper-aware of my surroundings and pay attention to every little detail of whatever I'm focusing on. It's a bit of a curse and I wish I could turn it off. There are lots of things that I thought was some supernatural bullcrap before I thought or talked about it, and realized that it was just me mistaking something for something else or whatever. I've been working at a fast food chain for 2.5 years now, working part-time before I graduated and full-time now and during previous summers. I've seen a lot of things that absolutely do not make sense. I'm going to start with more minor things and work my way up to bigger things. Customers exclusively come in waves. The restaurant is right next to a busy major interstate freeway with a few casinos and malls around it. The traffic around our restaurant never stops. It's either a lot of cars or bumper-to-bumper cars out to the interstate. So you'd think that it'd be a random amount of customers depending on how much traffic there is. If only. Customers come in waves, usually 3 or 5 at a time. Outside of the early morning, it is never just one customer, unless it's one of our regulars. The NPCs, as some cynical Zoomers might say, come in waves. Like it's a freaking Plant vs. Zombies game. I have a story about this one for sure. The customers that come in these waves are usually completely illogical, both in appearance and their actions. Think like an old white lady in the driver's seat, a 12-year-old in the passenger seat, and a middle-aged black dude in the back. Completely random selections of people every time, and they are never happy. No amount of good customer service will ever make them not irritated and passive-aggressive. Unless we are slammed with customers, I maintain good customer service and a cheery voice. I say hello when they get to the window and communicate with them and tell them to have a great day. Basically, I do a lot more than I have to, and more than most other fast food employees. Still, I'd say 9 out of 10 customers are entirely displeased with me at all times. Sometimes they will clearly go out of the way to piss me off. One of the oddest things that can happen is when they get lost. This usually happens in the rare occurrence when only one customer shows up. A customer gets up to the menu, irritatedly orders an expensive and complex order. I tell them to come to the second window, and then nothing. We have a CCTV camera routed to a monitor that lets us always see what's going on in the drive-thru. The drive-thru is enclosed with high curbs on both sides, and beyond that, there's a chain link fence on one side, either trees and shrubbery, or the restaurant itself on the other. You watch them pull up from the menu and further into the drive-thru, and then they just don't show up. If they backed out, I'd see them, and if I didn't see them, they'd hit the wait plate under the menu, and I'd get a beep on my headset. There's absolutely no way to get out of the drive-thru, short of driving by the window or backing up and we'd see or hear you backing up by the menu. This happens at least once a month. The customers act completely differently depending on who's working. It is absolutely bizarre, and everyone has noticed this. It is completely calibrated to piss whoever is on the headset off the most. I've learned to keep a cool and detached state of mind, so as to not get too mad or frustrated with the job. The more frustrated you get, the more you feed into the drive-thru things. There's a night manager who's worked there for 16 years with anger management issues that will actively make something to be pissed off about if there's any reason to be mad. When he comes into work, we immediately get swarmed by a constant barrage of angry customers the entire time he's there. Me and another manager who are in tune with all this spiritual bullcrap enjoy very quiet and relaxed days relative to what others go through, simply by working with the knowledge that our suffering and irritation is their goal. The other day, my parents called me to tell me my foster kitten had died, and as my mood went from good to bad, we immediately got swarmed with customers. For hours, as I was choking back tears. They will change their demeanor, demographic, and orders to adapt to whoever is working. One time, my boyfriend was working the drive-thru late at night, and a lady came through, ordered a number 9 medium. Then immediately after, the same lady orders a number 9 small, as if it was the exact same voice clip, but with a different ending. At the window, it was the exact same lady, like complete doppelgangers. What made me really start losing it, and inspired me to write this all out, was when I started to count how many voices were there, ordering, and how many heads showed up to the window. Sometimes I'll get to the menu, and it's this cacophony of voices that I call the mumbles, that eventually focuses on one of the 20 different voices they'll use, or very clearly 2 people will order, or there will be others talking in the car, and only one person shows up to the window. Their behavior directly correlates with the Schumann resonance. I pay near constant attention to the Schumann, as it affects me very directly every day. When weird stuff happens with it, the customers start freaking out. All this nonsensical bullcrap gets turned up to 11 immediately. Sometimes I wonder if this is known by the people who run these franchises. We make more money, and they get more customers than any other restaurant this side of the state. Still, they constantly demand we cut employees. They never fix anything. They make nonsensical rules that seem to be maximized to cause us employees suffering. I think this place is a farm, and I'm not one of the farmers. It only makes logical sense under the framework of causing me and the other employees as much distress as possible to farm louche. Case file number 1977, written by Throw Raw and Anonymon. Chess set blues, pawns we lose. I, 23 female, live with my husband, 31 male, and a dog. We have a chess set where the board folds in half and holds the pieces inside, with each piece having a respective slot, so you can easily see if one is missing. The board latches and locks when closed. We played often and never lost a piece. Until this happened, apparently. We are both very particular about taking care of the things we have, and we would never ever have put the game away without all the pieces. Other info. The dog does not chew things or steal things. We are the only ones who have ever used the board. A few months ago, we opened it up to play after just playing a couple days prior. One pawn was missing. We were so confused because, like I said before, we would never put away the game with a piece missing. We searched the house up and down for the missing piece, even beyond the area that it reasonably should have been. We never found the piece. We would just use things like a bottle cap or coin as a missing pawn. We just recently moved, and we packed everything ourselves. The missing piece was still nowhere to be found. Cut to today, shortly after moving and getting all unpacked. The chess set has been closed and latched, packed in a box. Today we opened it to play for the first time since we moved, and now 2 pawns are missing. I'm literally having an existential crisis. It's just not possible. Maybe it's a glitch in the matrix. Maybe my chess set is haunted. Maybe I have a secret stalker chess thief. Who knows? Cheers. Case file number 1978, written by Santis Mamorte. Money Gone Next. A pocketbook mystery that leaves me vexed. I wake up at 5:30 a.m. to get to work, so I tend to pack a few days of medicine in a small pouch in my pocketbook, so I don't have to think about it and get to work faster. A few days before the refill date, I realize there isn't any in my bag, but I don't think too much about it. I've been getting more and more migraines, and maybe I took an extra one after work? I get my refill and only take one in the morning, so I don't have to carry it at all. Fast forward to day 2 of the new prescription, and I'm feeling migraines, seeing blue flashes, hoping there is one in my pocketbook so I don't have to leave early and take a cab home from work. One rolled right into my hand, and I even looked at it to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. There isn't even supposed to be anything in there. I had even fully emptied the pocketbook and the pouch before the fill date, in case it had fallen out. The next day again, I only take one in the morning, and after lunch my migraines act up again. I reach my hand in the pouch and another rolls into my hand. This happens for the next 4 days. Now the $15 I just got cash back last night has disappeared from my pocketbook. But since these things don't go missing forever, just a few days and they come back, I guess I'll wait and hopefully update when it returns. I'll yell at whatever house fairy is taking these migraine meds away and money from my bag. Case file number 1979, written by Pixel 3. Out of Sight, A Tale of Digital Day and Night. So I've had things disappear and reappear on me way later in a weird sort of way. But this one took the cake for me, being the most weird event ever, due to the fact that the phone temporarily vanished both physically and off the GPS map. The day it happened, I was in my house alone and had not left at all. I was wearing a hoodie with a big front pocket. That morning, I was running up and down the stairs between 2 levels of the apartment, doing some tasks. I was on my phone actively texting my friend about some plans to meet later. Since I was checking it frequently, I kept it in the front pocket of my hoodie. I texted my friend, pocketed my phone, and went downstairs to check on my laundry. I did that, then wondered if my friend had replied, and went to grab my phone. It wasn't in my pocket. I was sure I just pocketed it, but maybe I forgot and put it down somewhere? I thoroughly checked all 3 of the rooms I'd been in the last few hours, assuming it was just me being forgetful. Nope. Checked again, and no. So I opened my laptop and type Google Find My Phone. If you've linked your device, it will show the exact location using GPS, and let you remotely lock it if it's stolen or lost, or make it ring. I use the ringing to locate it all the time when I misplace it in my home. I do this, and Google says, cannot locate device. I don't think anything of it, and I refresh and try again. Same result. I tried this a few more times, and it kept saying, cannot locate device, which is weird because that's never happened before. My phone was charged. I was literally just using it. Wi-Fi connection was stable. Although it uses GPS anyway, so that shouldn't matter. And I hadn't left my house. I can't make it ring because the device couldn't be reached. I checked the rooms again and nothing. I get this feeling it's just gone. Since there's nothing I can do, I decided to give up for a bit. Maybe 15 minutes later, I see an update to the map on my laptop, showing the phone as being in my house. The same second, I hear it start to ring. I run over to the room it's in, and it's right on top of the countertop of the room I checked a bunch of times, in the most obvious, impossible to miss spot. What the heck? Case file number 1980, written by Ashley Mary 096. A beach day mystery that's hard to put underfoot. This happened about 5 years ago, but I'll never forget how insanely confused I was. I also want to note that I'm not a stranger to glitches happening, and I've witnessed cars disappearing with nowhere to go, items disappearing and reappearing in the most obvious places, etc. So the story is, I was on a camping trip with my family in Biloxi, Mississippi, and we took a drive to the beach. We parked in a parking lot and had to cross a busy street before coming up to a wooden bridge and path that led to the sand. As me and my family approached the end of the path, all of the beachgoers had their shoes lined up against the railing. I remember slipping out of my shoes and hoping that they wouldn't be stolen or accidentally taken by someone else, as they were pretty generic. And as I stated, everyone's were all piled together. Me and my family went on about our beach day, went swimming, etc. And I know for a fact no one from my little group left to go back to the car, and everyone stayed together the whole time. Not only that, but my siblings were too young to cross the street alone at that time. My dad has never pulled pranks. And we were leaving and approached the pile of shoes. Lo and behold, my shoes were gone. They were a cheap pair of flip-flops, so I wasn't broken-hearted, but was quite annoyed, as I had to walk across the busy street and through the parking lot, barefooted. I remember stepping on rocks the whole way and mildly complaining because it was quite painful. Then when I got back to the car, my shoes were neatly placed directly outside of my car door, as if I had opened the door, placed my feet on the ground, and just slipped out of them. If it were a prank, it couldn't have been done by my family, so the random prankster would have had to know 1, which shoes were mine, and 2, which car was mine, and 3, which door I had gotten out of. And I know for a fact I didn't leave them there myself, due to how uncomfortable the walk was barefoot, as well as having the thought that I hoped my shoes wouldn't go missing in the pile. I was happy to have them back, but totally annoyed it wasn't before the miserable walk across the rocks. Case file number 1981, written by FSR. Granny's Otherwordly Plea. Clean the floor. Don't let it be. 7 days after my grandmother's passing, I went to her house with my 4-year-old nephew to grab some of my things that happened to be in her house. One of those things was a bag whose leather was crumbling, so when I picked it up from her closet, some of that leather dust fell to the floor. My grandmother was the type of person who thinks that if you make any mess, you have to clean it right away. You're not supposed to let it sit there for ages. Because of that, I immediately said to her, or the idea of her, I don't know, "Don't worry, Granny, I will clean it up." Anyway, before that though, I decided to put my nephew, who was jumping up and down, to watch a cartoon, so he would stay still for a sec while I would get him some food. My grandmother lived with one of her children, so the food in the fridge was fresh and everything. As I'm prepping his food, all of a sudden, my nephew, who 2 minutes ago was all over the place in a good mood, shows up with a concerned look on his face. As if he was weirded out by something. He goes and asks me, "What is this voice?" And I'm like, "What voice?" "This woman." So I go, "What woman?" And he repeats, "This woman." So I go, "Where is she?" And he says, "Here." I'm like, "Where?" And he goes and points out behind my back. Then I ask him, "What is she saying?" "To clean the floor." Case file number 1982, written by Y. Elizabeth Adore. Perfectly aligned. The tale of a banana and time combined. This happened about 10 years ago. My husband, infant daughter, and I lived together in a small apartment. We had a clock on the wall in our living room that we never adjusted for daylight savings time. It had been an hour off for most months. Rather than changing it, we just joked about it all the time. We rarely relied on the analog clock anyway. Plus, eventually, it will be corrected again. One day, I got home from a morning outing with my daughter. I noticed that a banana peel was on the hall on the floor. This was very strange because we did not have any bananas in the house. In fact, we never did. I was quite startled. I sent a text to my husband and asked him if he stopped by home during his shift and possibly dropped a banana peel on the floor. He said he most certainly had not. We checked our Ring doorbell footage and no one had come into our apartment. I cleaned it up. I was feeling uneasy. I packed a diaper bag for my daughter so we could leave for the afternoon. Before we walked out the door, I glanced at our clock. The time was correct. It had been adjusted for the time change. I was startled. I checked my phone to be sure, and sure enough, the clock had been adjusted. I grabbed my daughter and her bag and left. Once we got safely to the car, I messaged my husband to ask if he had adjusted the clock. He had not. When we got home that evening, my husband thought I had been messing with him. I still can't explain what happened. My husband is not a practical joker, and this would have been a very weird practical joke to play. I always felt like it was a little glitch in the matrix. That or something more sinister, but my brain prefers the former. Case file number 1983, written by Grace Omega. Naked and Strange, a glimpse through the range. When this happened, about 2.5 years ago, I was sleeping in a room at the back of my house that faces the back of another row of houses. For some reason, the people in those houses often don't close their curtains at night, which can get awkward because I often felt like I was accidentally spying on people if they had their lights on. One evening, I was doing something in my room, tidying up or something, and I glanced out the window. 2 houses down, in one of the upstairs bedrooms, there was a naked girl standing right in front of the window, staring out. The bedroom light was on, even though there was still plenty of daylight, so this was hard to miss. I'm a guy in my early 30s, assuming she was just getting dressed and forgot to close the curtains, and not wanting this girl to think I was being creepy. I quickly looked away and went about whatever I was doing. A few minutes later, I happened to look out the window again, and she was still there, still just staring straight out of her bedroom window. This was weird enough that I stopped what I was doing and tried to figure out what the hell was going on. The girl started moving really slowly, sort of making these odd poses, like turning slightly from side to side or lifting one arm like she was looking at herself in a mirror. Except obviously there was no mirror, and it wasn't nearly dark enough to get a reflection in the window like you do sometimes at night. The sun had just begun to set, so it was actually still quite bright out. I just stood there for a while, trying to come up with some sort of explanation for what I was seeing. But the whole thing started to feel way too creepy on every level, at which point I noped out and closed my blinds. About 15 minutes later, I cautiously checked to see if the coast was clear, and the girl was gone. And this is where it gets even weirder. It took me a while to realize this, but there is no young girl living in that house. The couple who live there are elderly, and if it was a grandchild or something, then I'd never seen her there before or since. I also find it really odd that no one else saw her. I know they didn't because gossip gets around the street like wildfire. And this is the sort of thing that would have been talked about. Like I said, not the craziest story, but it was incredibly eerie. Still wonder who the hell that was and what she was doing. Case file number 1984, written by Silvertane, The Bentley That Never Was. I attended a funeral last week, attended by my uncles, aunties, and cousins. I haven't seen them for years, and some, decades. I saw my cousin, who is a director of a communication company. I haven't seen him for maybe a decade. Last time I saw him at a funeral, he owned a distinctive cream-colored Bentley with red interior. I remember talking to him at length about it, and vividly remember 2 of my brothers being there for the conversation. The same 2 were also at this recent funeral. I asked him if he still owned this Bentley, and he looked confused, and said he has never owned one in his life, only Jaguars, which he was indeed driving on that day. I was confused but didn't push it. Later I asked my brothers, thinking my cousin frankly was lying. He's a bit of a Flash Harry type character. They also said that they have no idea what I'm talking about, despite the fact that I can recall us all talking around the bloody car, clear as day. It's a very distinctive car. I thought maybe it was a different person until I remembered my cousin gave me his business card. By the car. And also the other day I dug out the old card. I have it with all my other business cards. And they are identical. So what the hell's going on? I can't stop thinking of this as a parallel universe or what. Case file number 1985, written by Trying to Not Comment. Gates Mystery. Screw's Return History. A week ago, I was sweeping off the walkway at the side of my house after a stormy night. As I got to the gate, I noticed that the handle on the gate was missing one of the 2 screws that attach it to the wood. I checked the ground for the missing screw but couldn't find it. Upon closer inspection, it looked like a screw had never been installed at the top of the handle because there was no corresponding hole drilled into the gate. I just assumed that I must have forgotten to add that screw when I had replaced the gate handle a few months earlier. It was a bit annoying because the screws came with the handle as a kit. I had no idea where to find the screw or to get a matching replacement. A couple days later, I went back out to the gate to get a better look at the remaining screw so I could go find a replacement for the missing one. Here's a glitch. The handle was fully attached with 2 screws. The handle was attached exactly as I believe I had originally attached it. Nothing was missing. The screws on the handle were equally weathered and showed no sign of being tampered with. Case notes from 1975, The Midnight Dog, and a trucker's blog. So I looked it up and there's a few points. First, black dogs are said to bring about an omen of death. It's actually found in Harry Potter too. But it's just funny how that mythos can spread around in so many different formats and even infiltrate into our art. But also it's known as the black shuck in the UK, which I found it interesting that even across the pond, people have the same experiences. So the idea that it's pure hallucination doesn't seem likely to me, because why would people hallucinate the same thing? That's not a hallucination. That is seeing beyond the pale. That is seeing beyond what we're normally allowed to. Maybe that does involve being tired. Maybe when you're tired, different pathways open up in your mind. But then was the entire accident of hitting this dog or bear or whatever it ended up being truly just in your mind? The way hallucinations work, after the fact, you tend to know that they're hallucinations. There's obvious signs. If there's no signs to you, then I think it might have been quantum immortality, where you saw this omen of death, and then you actually did die. But in the process, the damage to your truck did happen in the original universe, where maybe the front hood did flip so fast up into the actual driving compartment and cause issues for you. I could see that being the case. But now the first story. Is it a glitch? Who's to say? Is it just a coincidence? A very, very unlikely coincidence. But if it was a glitch, what could it be? What would cause man and machine to become tethered to that extent? Where if the owner dies, the truck dies as well. I wonder what was physically wrong with the truck to cause it to not start. I'm sure they inspected it after the fact and there was something wrong. It wasn't just that it was perfect and yet wouldn't start. Or if that is the case, then something had to be physically blocking it. I don't know much about trucks or cars, but there's so many moving parts, it wouldn't be hard to disrupt it if you wanted to. And you could get in there like a spirit. Maybe for some reason after the man died, he stopped his own truck, just didn't want anyone else to drive it. Sentimental reasons, I guess. Now time for the joke of the day. Putin dies and goes to hell. After a while, he's given a day off for good behavior. So he goes to Moscow, enters a bar, orders a drink and asks the bartender, "Is Crimea ours?" "Yes, it is." "And the Donbass?" "Also ours." "Kiev?" "We got that too." Satisfied, he drinks and asks, "Thanks, how much do I owe you?" €5. Well, they got it all right. Caissons found 1976. In waves they come, acting so dumb. So I had to look that up. I'd never heard of the Schumann resonance before, but it's a real phenomenon where the different electrical charges discharged static electricity in the air via lightning. The waves themselves generated in the air, well, they can interact, and that process does create a different vibration, a frequency in the atmosphere. Very interesting to read up on. Never occurred to me that was happening, and could that resonance have an impact on people? Maybe. Now, I don't think it could turn them into weird zombies that are controlled and sent to some random restaurant or chain to mess with the employees. That's strange, but then you do say that it corresponds with it, like different activity in the air. Do I ever notice that when there's lightning storms, a greater charge in the air, that people behave differently? I don't know. Have I? Haven't given that any thought at all, but I'll pay attention. Who's to say? I know I get excited when there's lightning storms. Something about it is soothing to me, as long as there's no tornadoes or anything. And as long as you don't lose power, because that's just boring. Of all the lists of things that you describe happening that are strange, the strangest one by far is where someone orders food, is in the drive-thru, and then the car itself vanishes. How do you explain that? You have cameras everywhere. If someone's moving up or back, you would see it, and they just disappear. How do you explain that? They didn't drive through the shrubbery on one side, you would also see evidence of that happening. So, unless they flew up or teleported away, what would cause that? Is it a random space-time portal in the drive-thru of your restaurant? Who would put it there? Why? Why? It's always the question on my mind where these space-time portals come involved. Purely tests? I guess we'll never know, but maybe being around the space-time portal could impact the personalities of people as well. But then I don't know what would cause people to come into a restaurant where the setup of the people in the car is completely random. This group of people that doesn't seem like they belong. I don't know. That's an oddity as well, for sure. Now time for the joke of the day. My brother had to quit his job as a weightlifter because he wasn't strong enough. He handed in his 2-week notice yesterday. Okay, so it's from 1977. Chess set blues, pawns we lose. Well, no reappearance effect in this case, but it's almost like whoever stole it wanted you to realize, yeah, this is not normal. You already realized it a bit, but they wanted to make sure you truly processed. This is a glitch. Something abnormal happened here and there is no explanation. And I think that's all there is to say about this one. They wanted you to know, whoever they is. Case notes from 1978. Money gone next? A pocketbook mystery that leaves me vexed. Really sorry about the migraines and yours truly gets them all the time too. Well, I used to, if I go out in the sun without my sunglasses. Really feel like a vampire sometimes. Anyways, I think the medication can be forgiven, but stealing money, come on. Ghosts or glitches or server developers can do better than being money thieves. Do better. Okay, so it's from 1979. Out of Sight? A Tale of Digital Day and Night. Now, this is the most solid DOP event I've ever read. Mainly because you were directly in connection with Google Tracker, whatever they call it, where you can call your phone, lock it, etc. I should get that set up for myself too. But yes, you had the website open, you tried to initiate it, and it couldn't connect. And then, a few minutes later, it could. Unless the phone was somehow in a Faraday cage, someone's broken to your house, took the phone, put it in a Faraday cage for 15-20 minutes, and then, what? They just brought it back? Why? That is more unbelievable in every conceivable way, to me, than it just being a glitch. And yeah, DOP, most common glitch, but it's always interesting to me. The phone literally phased out of existence, and I don't see any other explanation. Now time for the joke of the day. My son asked my wife why I make noises every time I stand up. She told him it's because I'm a grown man. Okay, so it's from 1980. A beach day mystery that's hard to put underfoot. Yeah, I've walked through parking lots before, and it sucks. If it's a asphalt parking lot, cement, or just gravel, it all heats up a lot. So there's pointing. Who knows if there's like glass on the road? You do not want to do that. It sucks. So whoever did this clearly was a prankster. Now, was their motive pure? Just playing a prank, bro? I guess so. Why else would they put it back there? And it couldn't have been a human being, could it? Unless they were stalking you. They were literally just some weirdo that was at the beach and wanted to play a prank on some random unsuspecting family. So they observed one particular car, saw you get out, saw you where you put your sandals. I guess that could be possible. That would be much creepier, for sure. Okay, so it's from 1981. Granny's Otherwordly Plea. Clean the floor. Don't let it be. My grandmother and my mother are the same way, and that's nothing wrong with that. Tidy. She was still around, lingering to make sure that no one messes up the house while she's gone. Are you gonna be the neat freak ghost when you go? I probably would be. Okay, so it's from 1982. Perfectly Aligned. The Tale of a Banana and Time Combined. Okay, I got nothing for this one. Honestly, not a clue. What could reset a clock and then leave a banana peel behind? There's nothing that connects in that I can think about. Can anyone else think of anything that would fit? So the clock is reset to correct time via daylight savings, and a banana peel is left behind. Frickin' King Kong is up here just changing clocks? I don't get it. It's such a bizarre glitch, but I love it, and it's even better that I don't know what the hell happened. Space-time portal that ported in a monkey that changed the clock? Or the portal itself fixed the clock and the monkey came in, left a banana peel and poured it out. I got nothing. Now time for the joke of the day. A polar bear walks into a bar and says, "I'll take a rum and a Coke." The bartender says, "What's with the paws?" The polar bear says, "I was born with them." Caissons file 1983. Naked and Strange. A glimpse through the range. So up until the point you mentioned that no young girl lives there, it didn't really seem like a glitch to me, maybe confusion. But now that you mentioned that the young girl wasn't living there, well, it must have been a spirit, right? And if you think about it, why do spirits even come clothed when they manifest themselves? Because they can't do that. Almost never are they reported to be naked, but yet, if you're an echo, you die and you're now an echo, a fragment of a soul, an imprint on the world. You keep your clothes? Is the universe itself trying to be PG-13 or something? Is like baked into the program, whatever you die in, you keep forever? Or while the fragment lasts? Huh. Just thinking about that now, but again, even then, if you die when you're naked, your birthday suit is what you have, that's it? And so the spirit was just like lingering and longing for the days of yore, reminiscing on our past life, but then, why the stretching? Maybe the couple did have a girl over, and she was just out of it? I guess that's also possible. If it's a spirit, though, it really does beg those questions. If you die naked, do you remain a naked ghost if you manifest? I guess that's kind of funny. Caissons file 1984. The Bentley that never was. Yeah, sure, he could be lying, but I don't think that's the case. This is solid evidence that you're in a different world. Because why would he lie about that, really? Doesn't make sense. A Bentley is an object of admiration and achievement. It's something you would brag about having had if you did have it. I think it's better than a Porsche or whatever, or a Jaguar. Cougar? What the hell car did he have? I forgot. But yeah, nothing wrong with being in a different universe, just check for more signs. But everything should function more or less the same. Caissons file 1985. Gates Mystery, Screw's Return History. Alright, this is an eerie one. Maybe the mention of the storm has me on edge, even though I like thunderstorms, there's still a charge, a crackle to them, you could say. But in this case, it's almost like the lightning storm cracked apart the membrane between universes, so you were seeing into a different one, and I think it makes sense. If that is possible, it would require a lot of energy. And what does a lightning storm bring? A lot of energy, and lightning especially. It's almost like in that movie, The Mist, at the start. The thunderstorm and the fog rolling in was part of an experiment. And if you apply that to the real world, even if no one is conducting an experiment per se, maybe they are though, that could be related to parallel worlds and peering through the looking glass. It may just take enough of a certain type of energy to break through, temporarily, of course. And then a reset back, when you went to check later, voila. All good, because it happened in a different universe. So many things can just be said like that. Don't worry, you're not crazy. It just happened in a different universe. Could print that on a shirt. Now time for the joke of the day. If King Kong went to Hong Kong to play ping pong and died, what would they put on his coffin? A lid. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony, signing off.